thermometer that's on the southern side of the house and protected by the house shows it being right at 30 degrees outside. So if I walk away from the house, it's probably a degree or two colder, but this shows 30. And let's go see what the greenhouse says. It's starting to ripen. That one's getting closer. Big boy back there. I think that one might go in breakfast today with some tomato toast and some eggs. Let's see if it's ready. Oh yeah. Just twist it off. December 1st. Bonnie Best tomato. If I have more, there's probably more down there. But in here, I have just this little heater going. Those are the settings right now. And I've got a fan circulating the air. And the current air temperature in here is 41.4.5. So all I want to do is keep the temperature above freezing so the plants can keep growing and ripening. Look at all those peppers. In the spring when I have plants growing in here, I'll insert some pictures. In the spring when I have plants growing in here, I just brought this in from inside to see if it would read the temperature, and it's not adjusting very quickly, so it's not really 52. But in the spring, last year and the year before, I would just put in a heat lamp for chickens. And one heat lamp for the chickens would give me another 5 or 6 degrees above the outside air temperature. So if it was going to get really cold, I would put 2 chicken heat lamps in here. And that would give me about 12 degrees above the outside air temperature. And I only need that in the spring. If it's going to get super cold, that's when I'm starting the cool greens, all the brassicas and spinach and lettuce and stuff. So things that don't need to stay really warm at night, but you definitely don't want them to freeze when you're sprouting and starting them. And I've cut all the tops off pretty harshly on these plants just to encourage them to ripen the fruit they have. Like, I don't need these flowers. This is not going to grow all winter in here. I don't want to run the heat all winter. So these flowers are not necessary. I'm not going to make any more tomatoes this year. I just want to ripen the ones that I have. And then I'll tear these plants out all the way. This greenhouse has 2 window vents up top. And this one was damaged earlier this year. Some strong winds came through while I had the roof open, and it ripped the roof off. So my husband was able to reattach it, but now I can't get it to lock closed all the way. It still keeps a crack if you don't lock it. So I can hook it on the tightest loop, and it leaves a little crack. But that isn't stopping the greenhouse from staying warm enough. Still 41 in here and 30 outside. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a clear sealant that my husband ran over everything to seal off any chance of airflow, as much as possible anyway. Of course, you can only seal so much when you got a big crack in your window, but it also helps to sturdy the building up. It doesn't shake as much when the wind blows, less chance of the panels flying away. And what he used is supposed to stay clear and not turn yellow over time. But it's in all the cracks everywhere. No, I don't heat this all winter. I will turn the heat off and have no heat in there once I rip the tomato plants out when they're done ripening for me. And that makes it, you could continue to grow things in the bottom, and I'll show you how my husband designed that throughout the winter and just treat this as a cold frame. You don't have to have it heated. We have solar power for the majority of our house, and it'll probably be all of our house in a few more months, but whatever I heat this with does run off the solar batteries at night, so I don't worry about whatever that expense is. But then in the spring, good morning, Mr. Rooster. I think that's Moody down there crowing. In the spring, when I grow the greens that I start from seedlings, the season is starting to warm, so I only use a little bit of heat on those super cold nights that the greens can't handle it. I do have some heating pads, but I've never used them before underneath the trees. So because we do have a tilt here, it goes downhill all the way down. In order to keep the house level, my husband put it up on a wooden frame. So he nailed rebar into the ground and then drilled the wooden frame to the rebar. If I can get a picture of that, I'll insert it here. And then he mounted the actual greenhouse to the wood frame once it was level. And we don't plan for this to be a forever greenhouse. It was only supposed to get us through for a few years until hopefully we can build a large greenhouse across the southern side of our house. But because this is the southern side, it gets the full sun exposure. It does have protection from the house, so it doesn't get as much cold wind against it, I guess, from the northern side. And this door is wonky sometimes. We've had to add a few extra screws in the bottom to make sure it stays on the track when you open and close it. And then you gotta tug it a little. Sometimes it tries to stay cracked a little like that, so you just give it a little tug. It's not a perfect seal, but it's enough for a cold frame or a greenhouse on the edges. If you have any more questions, let me know. I think this was just almost $400 when we bought it in the winter of 2021. So this is our second fall. We will have had 2 full years of it come March 2023. And then inside he built shelves, because the main purpose of this entire structure was for me to have somewhere to start my greens, all my seedlings in the spring, because I was getting to where I had so many that the grow light that I had inside couldn't fit them all. So once the plants got big and I had more and more plants, I was carrying maybe 10 to 15 trays of starts out onto my front porch each day so they could get sun, and then bringing them back in at night when it got cold. And after 3 or 4 or 5 years of that, we tried different little small cold frames in the ground. There just wasn't ever enough space for all my green starts. So we saw someone else on YouTube that designed their shelves the same way. So it's a wider shelf at the bottom. Get out of the sun. It's a wide shelf at the bottom and one the same depth in the middle. And then up top, the shelf is more narrow, so you don't feel too crowded. I'll have to insert pictures so you can see better, because the plants really hide all this. But then he made the slats removable. So if I want to plant a bunch of stuff in there, I can just take all these slats out. So right now I take every other one out so the tomato plants can grow up. And sometimes they use the slats for the trellis support for the plant. And then when I have a bunch of seed starts in here, I can fill all the slats back in and have a secure shelf. And we framed the walkway out in the middle and painted it so it wouldn't rot as easily. So we have wood chips in the middle which need refilling, and then on the edges we have compost. So you can see some remnants. There were pea plants and bok choy, and you can grow lots of greens in here. There's space in the back where the peppers are growing up. And that's my water supply. And yep. So you can grow cold crops in here all winter. I guess it depends on your zone. I'm in a zone 7B, so a little chillier than a regular zone 7. But it works. It was a questionable purchase when we bought it because $400 seemed like a lot of money for that. But it's perfect. It works just for what we need it for. It lets them keep all the greens out here and protect them from the weather, and they get plenty of sunshine. So they need less hardening off when transplant time comes. I'll just give them a couple days where I bring them out of the greenhouse and set them on the ground out here just to get used to some more wind. But I do always have a fan going inside to keep them tough also, or help them to be tougher, have stronger roots. So this is Harbor Freight, the 6x8 greenhouse. This potting shelf was a Mother's Day gift last year. It was the first carpentry work my husband did on his own. He's been teaching himself that through YouTube also. But this way I don't have to use the front porch anymore to pot everything. I have somewhere a little taller. I keep all my soil and compost in that container, and I can take that lid off and scoop from the top and fill stuff up. These are the clips that hold the plastic to the building. And the directions that come with this are horrific. You basically have to figure it out on yourself. My husband and son spent quite a while putting it together. But then once they had it, they were able to help my sister-in-law, give her direction for hers. We just ran an extension cord from the house underneath the wood, and you can see inside that red line going up. That's just the extension cord. And I have a splitter in there that I can plug stuff into. Alright, if there's anything else that's interesting or you want to know about this, just let me know. It's just a tool. I don't really pay much attention to it, but I'm thankful for it.